On today's show, the Senators B squad is crushed in St. Louis.
And how should the Sens approach their final preseason game up against the Montreal Canadiens?
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com, and you can win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel. Today is Friday, October 3rd, and Pilsy, happy FACEOFF presented by Amazon Day to all those who celebrate.
Oh, yeah. I was excited this morning to get to watch it. Do we want to get into that now or later? Because also, Ross, I mean, you glossed over. It's also October 3rd. Big news of the day.
Zoob?
Artem Zub's birthday, of course. Yeah, so happy birthday to Zuby.
At the end of the show, we will recap the episode. Pilsy's already watched it. I was busy building gosh knows what with the baby this morning, but I'm going to catch up on it later today. But Pilsy's got all what you need to know from episode 1. They didn't make you wait. All 6 episodes dropped at the same time, but Brady Tkachuk leading the charge, episode 1. I would rather talk about that than the Ottawa Senators game last night. And credit to all those who were watching on the Senators live stream. That was tough. Now, St. Louis, they had their full team. But again, second shot of the game goes in. A problem from last year that's starting to rear its ugly head. Back-to-back games now, Pilsy. And it just deteriorated into a debacle from there.
And to emphasize that, Ross, it wasn't just anyone on any shot. How about Matthew Joseph, the guy you traded away with a sweetener to make cap room, getting a breakaway and scoring on our breakaway specialist, Levi Merrilainen, right away. Like that was just such a facepalm moment. And from that goal, you knew it was going to be a rough night. And it was a rough night. Thank goodness the Ottawa Senators at least got one goal. Now, when you get one goal in a 7-1 loss after coming off a 5-0 loss, it doesn't feel that great, but I found the panic button and turned it on. And I know maybe some people are like, Pilsy, it's preseason, relax here. But it's not the outcome of the game that is causing me to have concern. It's what if the things we're worried about are still problems and don't get fixed. Now, there wasn't any power play goals, was there, for the St. Louis Blues? I don't think so. According to the NHL.com score sheet, the Blues went 0 for 2. There was only 4 PIMs on each side, so a very different game than the Montreal Canadiens. But Levi Merrilainen has not looked good this preseason. That's concerning, as the Ottawa Senators have kind of put their eggs in one basket with him being the backup, as he has a .684 save percentage, allowing 6 goals on 19 shots. The big boys, sure, Zetterlund gets a goal, which is nice, as he was playing with Stützle and Brady.
Chris Paul hits a 3. The deficit is now 42.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like, honestly. My biggest bright spot was Carter Yakimchuk. I thought every time he was on the ice and every time he touched the puck, I felt like he could do something, and he was confident out there. And for 4 of your 6 defensemen to finish -3, including your NHL regulars in Spence and Matin Palo, and Yakimchuk and Lassie Thompson to be a +0, saying +0, and Lassie Thompson getting 1 assist. And it's not like they were sheltered. They played the most of any pair. Yak played 21-28, Lassie Thompson 22-15, and Yak has 3 shots, 1 block, 1 hit, and clean on the plus-minus side. So that is the lone positive I can find here, because other than that, like, it was just like I was glued in, Ross, and that first goal happened. I was like, oh, we're going to have another terrible night. And then it was just a barrage. Is that the right word? Check me on word of the day there. Barrage, word of the day. A barrage of goals happening one after another. And then the sadness and the pain as these goals went in went away, and I just became numb.
Are you using barrage as a noun or a verb? Verb.
I don't know.
Yeah, you are. Because it's
Yeah,
an
verb.
action.
Yes.
Bombard someone with something.
Yes. Yep. There was a bombardment of goals. By the
Yeah,
St.
even
Louis
the
Blues.
noun works too. A concentrated artillery bombardment over a wide area.
Yep. That
So
also
the
plays.
the area was 6x4, the size of the net.
Yeah. Oh my God. And Ross, you famously said this is Mad Sogard's biggest game of his career. He did not start, but he got in there. And unfortunately, not. I mean, okay, he only had 7 shots, but when you look at the save percentage, 857, like, oh man.
Yeah, it's frustrating to see, but it's preseason, and the Senators famously went 7-1 in preseason, then finished dead last in the National Hockey League. So.
Yeah, and it is important. And in the moment, it's tough when you're coming off that loss in Montreal and you're just looking for some bright spots and you don't really get any. So that made it tough.
They scored a goal, dude.
Yeah, they got.
I said I wanted a goal and I got it. So who am I to sit here and complain? But the only other bright spot, yeah, you mentioned Yakimchuk, but Lassie Thompson, he broke up a couple nice plays defensively. Like, I think his stock is kind of climbing slow and steady as a guy who could be the first call up. And if he can be a guy who plays left and right side, he looked comfortable on the left side yesterday. So
didn't look out of place. Yeah.
So I'm happy with Lassie Thompson, but the fact that's great for Lassie Thompson, not great for everybody else. Now, there were only about 6 regulars in the lineup for this game. It was a very skeleton squad that went there, and I'm ready for final cuts. And we'll get into how to approach the Montreal game a little bit later, but I don't really need any more auditions. I think that these have been back-to-back D-F performances by guys who are looking to make this team.
Yeah, I won't call them auditions, Ross. I'll call them fill-ins. Because placeholders, fill-ins. I don't need auditions either. But I also don't need funny business happening in Montreal on either side. And Habs fans, if you're still watching, bonjour. Thanks for tuning in and sticking on. Hate watch, nothing wrong with hate watching.
No.
Ross and I are victims of that as well. And it's sports. If you hate your rivalry teams, hate watch the crap out of us. We like the views. We appreciate the comments and the engagements.
Yeah.
So I would rather have other people play in the game in Montreal, and we'll dive into it more, than the star players, because I am just nervous the Montreal Canadiens will be looking for their pound of flesh from the Cousins Demidov slash, because that was greasy.
I think that the league's going to put not only Sens Habs on notice on Saturday night, but also Tampa, Florida. Don't know if you saw that.
I don't know, but is the league new? Were they born yesterday? Are they not aware of these rivalries and already have better referees and linesmen in place to be prepared for this type of action? It didn't seem like it.
Well, there were just fines given out that game. I think I think the league will likely say, if there's any funny business, you're going to miss regular season games. Is that worth it to you?
Is there a precedent for suspensions in preseason going into the regular season? I know there's been a couple, like there was, oh man, I'm blanking on his name. No.
Steve Downey got 20 game suspension for his hit on Dean McCammon in the preseason.
Yeah, and there was another like 41 game one. Who was the guy, the ginger buzz cut?
Rafi Torres.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but those guys are repeat offenders.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, would they would they hand those out just to send the message and suspend people in regular season? I'm not sure. And
that'd be wild.
If there is that kind of business going on, it's not going to be Cole Caulfield who's going for his pound of flesh. It's going to be other guys, and if they get suspended, the team's not going to care that much, and guys will probably chip in to help out for lost wages in that case, I would assume. Yeah,
that's why suspensions have to be the be all end all, I think. And look, the Senators, we're not to get ahead, but they need their full lineup in this game. We'll get to why. But do you have any thoughts on the St. Louis Blues game? Because I just want to flush it.
Jerseys look good. I know Martian said his big excitement for that game was to see how the St. Louis Blues jerseys looked on the ice. They look good.
That's the big takeaway from the game. Great jersey matchup, both teams. Love
the Sens jerseys also look great. Yes.
Sens whites look fantastic. 7-1. Are we calling this payback for Ottawa's 8-1 beatdown in the regular season last year?
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that, Ross. The Blues, they got us.
They got us.
One.
Yeah.
Dang.
Call it even.
Yeah.
Let's not continue that into the regular season when the Sens play the Blues. Tough night for Brady Tkachuk. Obviously, he's got family, friends, and that's definitely not the way he wanted that one to go. The Senators are back in St. Louis on November 28th. The Blues will be in Ottawa on December 6th. So despite just 2 matchups head-to-head this year, it's going to come in quick succession, just about a week apart. Okay, let's flush this one. Let's move on to the game on Saturday night. But before we get to that, Locked On NHL hosts, everyone, ourselves included, voted on the top 100 players in the NHL right now, and 4 Senators made the list. We'll react to where they were slotted next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We love FanDuel. I love FanDuel. Ross does too, and you should as well, because they've got so many different ways that you can play. You want to have player props? Go for it. Same game parlays. They got so many great options, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. And for hockey fans, listeners of this podcast, they did an NHL Futures Day where they had boosts for your future bets. Well, October 3rd, it's October 3rd, which is FanDuel's NHL future games. There's so many profit boosts. So diversify your portfolio in your sports book and get those futures in now. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Pillsy, the Ottawa Senators stunk the joint up in St. Louis after stinking the joint up in Quebec City. Look, here's the positives from it. The CTC has only seen 1 game this preseason. The boys were unreal at home last year. There is a lot of hockey to be played. And I checked the standings this morning, Pillsy, and the Senators are still tied for first in the National Hockey League with 0 points.
Oof. All right, let's hold on to that. Tied for first, not the 0 points.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want that to continue. But if you think it's an isolated thing, the Montreal-Ottawa rivalry in the preseason, go watch what happened in the Tampa-Florida game last night. This is just an epidemic around the National Hockey League where they don't want to pay for these teams to travel, and the teams don't want to travel day of to go further. They make sense geographically, but the problem with that is that your geographical rivals are typically the ones you hate the most, and that means that you don't actually play hockey. And clip this. I agree with Arbor Jacka. You know what he said yesterday?
What?
They asked him about playing that game, like getting your reps in, and he said, yeah, if you're looking to get boxing reps in, play in that game. Like, it was not hockey. No. So how are you supposed to get ready preseason? Pre means before. It also means preparation for the regular season. I don't think it actually means that, but it plays. It plays. They need to figure that out because it's a complete joke. And last night was a joke for different reasons, but at least it was a hockey game. At least there was actually offensive zone possession, defensive zone possession. And one thing we kind of glossed over because it was 7-1. The Senators outshot St. Louis heavily in that game.
Well, and that's a problem too, Ross, is I know the rosters obviously were tilted to St. Louis's favor. They're at home. The Sens have to travel and stuff. But yeah, the Ottawa Senators outshot the St. Louis Blues 37-26 and lost 7-1. Yikes.
Yes, yikes. What did you think of the top 100 that the NHL rolled out? People can go watch the episode on Locked On Sports today. I did a quick 1-minute clip on Jake Sanderson's position. You can find that on our social media as well. Let's just look at the overall top 10, and then we'll discuss where the Senators players ranked. So we'll get a sense. And neither of us voted for any Senators in the top 10. I think that would have been egregious. But the top 10 Locked On NHL hosts voted players in the league right now. Connor McDavid at number 1, Nathan MacKinnon at number 2, Leon Draisaitl at 3, Cale Makar at number 4, Nikita Kucherov at 5, followed by Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck, Kirill Kaprizov, Alexander Barkov, and Quinn Hughes. What had the most variance to where you thought that they should have ranked? Because this was my top 10 as well, just in a different order.
Yeah, none of these guys belong out of the top 10, in my opinion. I think they got it right here. And I'm not particularly mad on any of the order here. Like, McDavid, McKinnon are 1 and 2. I think everybody agrees on that. I don't think anyone has McKinnon ahead of McDavid yet. Or do you?
No,
Okay.
definitely not. No. McDavid's on a tier of his own. That said,
I don't. McKinnon's close, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the old Gazelle versus Rhino, right? Like,
That's the thing,
McKinnon
different
has
games.
so much power to his game, where McDavid, he's just a gazelle on ice, and the way that his hands and feet and brain all move in sync is second to none, which is why he's first. But get this, I had a player with 5 spots variance in the top 10. Can
Matthews?
you guess? No.
That would
5,
make him 11th, I guess.
Exactly.
or 1.
No, I had Matthews at 8, and he finished at number 6.
Then Quinn Hughes.
No. Although I did have Quinn Hughes higher than his 10th ranked. I had him at 7. Dude, I have Barkov at 4. Barkov is unbelievable.
4?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
The stat that did it for me was last year on their route to the Stanley Cup Championship. The top center on the other team who played head-to-head with him was basically held off the score sheet every series.
Yeah.
And then he still produces points on top of that. So I had Barkov at 4, Makar at 5, Kucherov at 6.
I mean, I'm not trying to continue the narrative of Barkov being underrated because that's not the case anymore. But 4 is high. I certainly wouldn't have him above Makar, but yeah, you got to respect Barkov's game. That's for
sure. And I wanted to have Makar in the top 5, no doubt. I mean, the guy scored 30 goals last year as a defenseman, and he's just so sick. But I think Barkov, being the back-to-back champ, captain of that team, and just the heartbeat, he just drives everything for them. I thought it was reasonable to have him in the top 5. Leaving Kucherov out of the top 5 felt wild too, though, at the time. So, let us know in the comments what you think about the top 10. But here's how the Ottawa Senators players ranked on this list. We'll pull up their spots overall here. I posted on social media. Tim Stützle at 36 came in first for the Ottawa Senators, followed 1 spot behind by Brady Tkachuk. And this is a common theme that we've seen, whether it's the NHL's rankings, TSN, The Athletic. They've got Stützle and Tkachuk side by side. But a lot of those rankings have Sanderson right beside them. He's down at 53 on this list. Linus Ullmark at 75. I think that's a fair spot for him. There were a couple goalies ahead where I was like, is UC Saros, who finished slightly ahead, is he better than Linus Ullmark? Last year he wasn't. But I understand Saros has a long history as a starter, playing 60-plus games in the playoffs. He's been better than Ullmark too. So I can concede and say, okay, sure, if that's what you want to do. Was Sanderson to you the biggest surprise as it was to me?
Yeah, I would say 3 things. Timmy and Brady being in the 30s surprised me a little bit. I thought they would be closer to the 40s, and the gap between Sanderson and those two certainly surprised me. And the fact that Jake Sanderson was the lowest of the 3 of them, because I think, Ross, you and I probably would have Sanderson ranked in a list like that ahead of Timmy and Brady. So that certainly was surprising, but lists are made to get mad at. So
yeah, and if you're wondering who was around those spots, well, we've got them pulled up here. Tage Thompson and Jake Gensel were the 2 players ahead of Stützle and Tkachuk. McAvoy and Adam Fox, the 2 players behind, followed by Nico Hischier. So I mean, you're still in great company in the 30s, and these are elite players in the National Hockey League. We're not going to pull up each graphic. Again, you can find that at Locked On Sports today. But of course, we're going to pull up the ones that have the Ottawa Senators in them. Jake Sanderson, this is too low. But I also think that we're too low on Jason Robertson and Clayton Keller, the two players right behind Jake Sanderson. They're heck of players, like Devon Taves at 56. Jacob Slavin only 2 spots ahead of Jake Sanderson. He's widely considered the best defensive defenseman in the National Hockey League. So there's a lot of good players in the NHL, but I couldn't help but notice Nick Suzuki down at 59.
Yeah, I mean, that puts Brady 22 spots ahead.
Yeah, and Timmy, the Sens top centerman versus their top centerman, 23 spots ahead.
Yeah, I want Jake Sanderson's name as closely attached to Jacob Slavin as possible at all times, because that's where you want to be. I know Slavin doesn't put up the points that we hope Sanderson can, but the Four Nations face-off, that was a perfect showcase for how good Jacob Slavin is.
Yes, it was. And then Linus Ullmark was at 75. I mentioned Saros was at 72. Martin Necas, Travis Konechny come in just ahead of Ullmark, followed by Dylan Strome, Adrian Kempe, and goalie-wise, the next goalie was 5 spots back, Darcy Kemper of the LA Kings. So that is the top 100 for Locked On NHL's preseason. And in my reaction video, I said exactly what Brady Tkachuk said a couple years ago. The doubters, they'll know soon enough how good Jake Sanderson is. And please, for the love of all things holy, let's see this full Senators team together before making any sweeping accusations about how they've played. But they've got 3 5-on-5 goals so far through 5 preseason games. They've got one more preseason game coming, though. It's against the Montreal Canadiens. It's in the Bell Center. How should the Sens approach this game? We'll get to it next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Pillsy. So it is a 1 p.m. practice today for the Ottawa Senators. You can go check out Twitter at Sens Central. If and when news break, are we going to see some cuts today? Are they going to keep this inflated roster that includes a number of call-ups that originally got sent down? Are they going to keep that through Saturday? Got to have your roster ready by Monday, though, as the regular season starts next week. Cannot wait to see NHL regular season hockey that actually matters on the horizon. There are 3 games on Tuesday, 4 games on Wednesday. We're going to have to sit back and watch those. The Senators begin their season Thursday in Tampa, and they start on a 2-game road trip taking on the teams that have won 4 of the last 6 Stanley Cups. So it's going to be a tough test to start the season. When you put it like that.
Yeah, you're on the road too. It's tough, but I mean, if there was a time you'd want to play Florida, it's now without Matthew Tkachuk and your 5th best player in the NHL and Alexander Barkov. Like that at least is a positive that you got to try to take advantage of. But oh man, as someone that did the Florida trip last year, that it still scares me.
And we're doing the Florida trip later in the season after your bachelor party. So
we are, yeah. Yep.
Fired up for that. Imagine the Amazon cameras were following us around for that.
I don't know how much footage could be aired for that trip. We'll see.
How much footage do you think we could get? Enough for an episode?
Probably not.
Yeah, good call, Alfie.
Enough clean footage.
Yeah. So Saturday, Montreal. I know we're on opposite ends of the coin here. I think you need to play your full team. Let bygones be bygones. Let's focus on November 1st to really stick it to the Montreal Canadiens, if you will, regular season action. This team, they haven't played their full roster in a single game as we've seen in these 5 games. It's been split squads all across the board. Closest we got was 14 regulars in the lineup out of 20. They need the practice of what their full team is going to look like. And I think that supersedes what if something happens? Well, your team as it's built should have enough team toughness to take care of it. I just don't think that we're in any position here with a combined score of 13-1 in the last 2 games, 12-1. Sorry. I meant to add that goal on the Senators side. They did score 1 goal, but I just think you have to, at this point, play your team.
And I agree, but they should have done it yesterday when St. Louis played their entire team, right? Like that would have been the perfect time. St. Louis is a decent measuring stick team, right? That's a team that got into the playoffs and made some noise and pushed back up against a tough opponent. I think that would have been a great measuring stick game. Would have been good to give Brady a boost in front of his family and friends that he had there to push back and get a win up against another NHL roster. And I'm just hoping that Montreal feels like they got their pound of flesh and they feel like, okay, not only did we beat them 5-0, but also in any of the physicality, any of the fights, we got the better of them. We're good now. That's my hope, because I wouldn't blame them if they were like, look, that slash on Demidov still isn't sitting right with us. We're going after Timmy. And then you're going to have anytime Timmy gets touched, they're going to do the diving thing, and they're going to have their whole parade about all that. And we're going to have to listen to Brendan Gallagher have cringeworthy post-game press conferences. And we just don't need any of that, in my opinion. So I would like to avoid all of that. I get what you're saying, but I think they made a big mistake by not having their full roster yesterday up against St. Louis Blues full roster, and now going into what could ultimately be another gong show as your final preseason game, where you don't get any hockey practice done again because the shenanigans continue.
I have to believe there's a world where both sides understand that this season is so important with how you're gonna have success. So play your full team. If something happens, it happens. I need cuts more than anything, because there's just guys here who aren't going to make the team, and we're less than a week from the regular season. So that's my thought process. Play the first line, play the second line, play the third line. If you want to alternate in, if McEwen wants to play, whatever.
And that's the thing, Ross. The toughness for the Ottawa Senators is not there. I'm sorry. McEwen ain't it. Hodgson's ain't it. He's probably more dirty than he is tough. Jan Unique, credit to him stepping in there, but it didn't go his way, and he's got some skill as well. But that's a main concern for me, Ross, is especially come playoff time, there's a lot of tough Eastern Conference teams that have playoff experience, and now you're looking at the Montreal Canadiens, a team that doesn't necessarily have that experience amongst them, but has gotten a lot tougher, and they're not just little skilled guys anymore. And the Ottawa Senators' toughness is probably not going to be on the roster even. And then you're looking at guys like Brady's going to have to bring it, Tyler Kleven's going to have to bring it, and that's not up to snuff. Like, in my mind, I think this management needs to look at that. And you remember how they looked at 5-on-5 scoring as their major stat to target to acquire? I think bottom six toughness, especially on that fourth line, they need to have a guy that they can trust in that manner, and that not only will show up for the fights, but instill confidence. Because what does it do when Zach McEwen shows up for a fight and loses every single time? Well, that doesn't exactly feel good, and you might end up losing more momentum than you were trying to gain, and that's no good for anyone. So that's a major concern for me.
Yeah, and we know the Senators were interested in Tanner Jeannot in the offseason. He ends up getting an outrageous
price
deal.
Tag.
Of course, but that means that they thought that his skill set, which is physical, hard, heavy, tough, was something that they could have used, but it didn't materialize, and thank goodness it didn't for what he ended up signing at with the Boston Bruins. But the Sens have not looked good. I think this is an opportunity to at least feel better about yourself going into the regular season. We'll see what Travis Green decides to do here on the road as well.
Who do you want starting? Linus?
If Linus wants to play, he can play. I've seen enough from him this preseason. If he doesn't want to play, he got a game in a period? No, he got 2 games in a period. No, a game in a period.
2, yeah. Or game in a period, yeah.
Yeah.
So
if he wants to play, he can
Levy
play.
back in there to try to get the confidence up, or are you nervous he's shaky and you give him a rest?
I probably go with Mads.
Yeah, okay.
I probably go with Mads. And look, I don't know how the goaltenders look in practice every single day. The goalie coach and the head coach would have a much better idea of that. But we talked about it at the start of training camp that the contract situation could make for an interesting decision.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no depth that you'd be comfortable playing in the NHL if it's not for those two guys. And if you lose Sogard, potentially, I'm not saying you would, but if you lost him on waivers and then Merilainen starts the season the way that preseason has gone, now what are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, part of me thinks you start Levy and Belleville to boost his confidence, then bring him up.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. And that's not me saying that Levy's all of a sudden gone from a skyrocket up our organizational value rankings to 2 bad games where the team barely showed up ahead of him. I'm not saying that that's like a dagger in his potential. I'm just saying that if Mads plays tomorrow and plays well, which is a big if again, then maybe you think about, hey, start in Belleville, much less pressure down there, and you're going to get to play.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Because you're not playing the first 4 games in Ottawa anyways. The 5th game is the second half of a back-to-back where they play the Sabres and the Kraken.
Yeah, that'll be your first chance. Yeah.
But that's almost 2 weeks away. So I'm curious to see. It's at least a story now.
Yeah.
Because Merilainen's numbers are awful in the preseason.
Well, I think Levy Merilainen will not be as good as he was last year, and he will not be as bad as he has been in this preseason. I think over a longer sample size, I'm talking 20 to 30 games, I think he'll be somewhere in the middle and right around average. Because you got to remember, this is a young goalie. It's very, very rare for young goalies to figure it out right away. Now, obviously, there is cases where it happens, but there's a lot of top prospects. Like, look at guys like Spencer Knight. Like, he was a top prospect and he struggled for quite a bit to figure it out. So there's so many guys where you think they should be able to step in and dominate. And it just takes time as a goalie. Like, a lot of goalies, they sometimes find their stride in their mid-30s. Like, it's tough.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, though, is you're really hanging Levy out to dry. Like, I don't know what the hell he's supposed to do on half of those goals.
Totally. But I mean,
yeah, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah, and yeah, when the game started off with that breakaway goal from Matthew Joseph, that made me concerned because that's Levy's bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
Has always been one-on-one. And don't get me wrong, Matthew Joseph, we've seen it. He can have flashes in the pan of really good skill, but that's not a guy you want to beat you like that.
No, it's definitely not. So, but hey, I'm calling this a preseason game that actually matters a little bit on Saturday night. Not necessarily the score. Like out of 10?
Yeah.
Like 3.5.
Okay.
Everything else has been a 1 so far.
Yeah, fair.
So I want to see the team and I want to see some semblance of confidence going in to the regular season. Maybe the boys will have a laugh at least at Brady Tkachuk's episode on Amazon and get the vibes where they need to be going into this game, going into the regular season. I was going to say, no, beware of spoilers, but you all watched in real time what happened throughout last season. How did you think Amazon was able to put the story together?
Man, we got to give so much credit to Amazon for a company like that to enter the hockey world and to just nail it off the bat every time. Like the Amazon Prime Monday night broadcasts are all amazing. They've found a way to get amazing talents. They provide a fresh look at how the game can be presented. It's nothing out of this world, but it certainly looks and feels different than your typical Sportsnet TSN broadcast. That's nothing against those either. It's just different. But it was so good. Like the editing, Ross, when we went to school, our editing teacher taught us the one thing you need to do and should strive for as an editor is to create emotion from people watching. They hit the highs, like Four Nation face-offs, the opening draw where they get into the fights. They got Renegade going in the background. They're zooming in on the Tkachuk family in the crowd. Big Walt is telling Chantel, like, hey, watch this. Something's going to happen. And she's like, what do you mean? The game hasn't started. He's like, just watch. And boom, Matthew fights. And then he's like, hey, it ain't over. She's like, what? And then boom, Brady fights. Like they nailed it. Now the theme of this episode is little brother syndrome. So if that word triggers you as a Sens fan, if you're a Leafs or a Habs fan still listening, you're jumping up and down, clapping. We love calling the Sens our little brother. Congrats. Brady Tkachuk literally is the little brother of Matthew. So it kind of shows, hey, his whole life growing up, he's been in Matthew's shadow. Then Matthew gets the cup. Matthew wins another cup. Matthew's had the experience. And they even, like, there's even jabs where they're having dinner after the Four Nations, the Tkachuk family. And Matthew goes, yeah, I told the whole team Brady finally gets to have a chance playing in meaningful games. And they all kind of laughed at him. And Brady didn't exactly think that was funny because, like, that's what he's been dealing with. But that's the motivation that he has to be like, look, I need to create my own story. I'm not just Matthew Tkachuk's little brother. I need to find a way to create my own path. And then they get into when Matthew's injured in the Four Nations face-off, and then the whole country and the hockey world says, oh, whoa, Brady's not just the sidekick. Like, he's his own guy and he can create his own story, and then obviously brings the Sens to the playoffs and things like that. So I don't want to hit on all the one-liners and the things that really were like, wow, that's kind of like powerful emotions, but there's so many good ones, and just kudos to the Amazon team because they nailed it again.
Were there any other Senators players in it, like behind the scenes stuff?
Yep, Pinto was in it a bit. Timmy had a couple quick words. I think Sanderson as well, but mostly it's following the dynamic of Brady and Matthew, because Matthew has his own episode coming later, but he's a big part of Brady's episode, obviously, and Big Walt is great too. So
Star of the show.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is about Brady being a new dad. So Ross, you can relate to that, and him being like, look, obviously I care about how my career goes, but just coming home to my family and things like that, that's where really the importance of my life is right now. So just a lot of heartwarming and powerful emotions that Amazon captures really well. So yeah, credit to them. And I'm excited to watch the rest of the series. I don't think there's going to be a dry eye watching the Johnny Hockey episode 2. I've got to prepare myself to watch that one later.
Yeah, that's going to be extremely, extremely heart-wrenching, to say the least. And then they got Sidney Crosby on there. That's one of the ones I'm excited to see. Do you see the clip where he's got the photo of every captain that lifts the cup in his gym? Except for Colorado, he put his boy Nathan McKinnon. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's so well done. And we might next week catch up with one of the producers of the show just to kind of learn how the sausage was made, so to speak. What's the percentage of Four Nations / Team USA on Brady Tkachuk's episode versus with the Ottawa Senators?
I would say maybe 60-40 Four Nations. Like, the Four Nations is the big one because they're playing it up that he's the little brother and he hasn't had an opportunity to play in big games. And then not only does he finally get to play in a big game, but he's playing alongside his brother. And then after that, he got the appetite for those big games. And that leads him to strive to get the Sens into the playoffs. And the episode ends with them being like, we're going up against the Leafs. This is going to be big, kind of.
Nice. They don't show that?
Black. Yeah, that didn't make it in.
Okay. I'm not too mad. Hey, just because we talked about it, because it was right after they announced, did they show any of the Calgary game with the OT winner?
No, I was surprised. Maybe so the footage wasn't usable. Brady himself claiming he had a face for radio. They do show some of the playoff stuff, like the first home game in Ottawa, how crazy it was, and like fans being like, we're back kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure your sound clip is in it. Cool. So go check that out. But yeah, great episode.
All right. Awesome. Looking forward for everybody watching that. Final thoughts from me is TSN's broadcast team has been announced. Mark Mathot will not be back. Unfortunate. We thought that he had great insight analysis on the game, but one of the rotating casts of analysts that's going to be coming in, still Cheryl Pounder. We love her. Still Mike Johnson, Jamie McLennan, all those guys. You know what name caught my attention, though? Former Senators head coach Paul McLean will be on broadcast this year.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Jack Adams winner.
Right? I'm very interested to see how his takes have evolved. And like, he's only a couple years removed from being on the Leafs bench as an assistant coach. So Paul McLean, always interesting. One of the best quotes in Senators history.
You love it.
That's not my daughter.
He nailed that press conference.
Yeah. And how many coaches give a press conference when they get fired?
Yeah.
Not many. Some. Paul Maurice, when he left Winnipeg, I think gave one.
I wouldn't call that a firing. He literally put his hands up and was like, there's nothing else I can do. I'm done here. That was him like walking away. I don't think he
Paul Maurice, not Paul McLean.
Paul Maurice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Paul McLean got fired.
Yeah, and Paul McLean, stud for the Winnipeg Jets back in the day, too. So 2 degrees of separation all around. But that mustache in 4K is going to be outrageous, and hopefully we get a chance to chat with Paul McLean later this season on the show. Pillsy, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, final thoughts for me is I'm trying to figure out my plans for the home opener. I still have not got a ticket or haven't really planned it out. I've just kind of been waiting, but I'm working on planning on where my tickets are going to be, where I'm going to stay. I'm making sure to get to the GLEBE Central Pub. The shuttle is running, so I'll tweet out, see where lots of people are getting their tickets to see if I can get into a group of people, because I don't want to just be fully solo in the nation's capital, as Ross can't make it this year.
I know. I feel so bad. It's a 5-year streak for me coming to an end, and I really, really, really wanted to be there. Obviously, having a 10-month-old at home is one thing. Pillsy and I are also best men in different weddings the following weekend.
Yeah.
And that is a big travel one for me as well. So just unfortunate. But it'll just mean that throughout the early portion of the season, we're going to have a Sens Central night, GCP, Sens game, and everything that goes along with it. We had a blast. Like, you can just pick any game. Like, we went Sens Sharks last year, and it was an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Love every moment at the CTC. It's been too long since I've been there, last March 1st. But yeah, much like Brady said in his episode, family's got to come first. And we will be making our presence at the CTC this season multiple times. I will say that for sure. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. They've been climbing nice and steady recently. Let's keep that rolling. And let's have the final roster made on Monday. Let's get into the real deal. NHL regular season on deck. That's Brandon Pillar. Think I already said that. I'm Ross Levitan, just to be full on that. And this has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.